I'm still excited when it comes to Toshi, and let me explain why, even though nothing I say is financial advice. First of all, maybe the idea of 2 cents, I still haven't, stopped thinking about that. However, even beyond that, I like seeing the pretty recent, I would say kind of okay recovery that I see when it comes to Toshi, because when it comes to the sentiment, when it comes to altcoins, it's not necessarily the best as of right now. But even when we saw just a little bit of like, some positivity, within kind of the sentiment when it comes to altcoins, we saw just Toshi have this pretty okay rally. Now, it's not that much in the grand scheme of things, but I still think it's very impressive. And I think, maybe a reason why is because I think Toshi has that sort of cool and unique factor in a sense where if Toshi was a meme coin, let's say, on a different place, let's say it's just like, a Solana based meme coin, probably it's a little bit different when it comes to the sentiment. Not to say that, some Solana meme coins haven't done well because we've seen some of them also have a pretty good recovery, similarly, much like what we see with Toshi. But then at the same time, I think Toshi just has this unique factor where because it is a meme coin on the base network, I think that right there is really giving it a lot more of a unique factor. Coinbase, they have a layer 2 called the base network, which again, Toshi is on. I think is really just something that kind of is the cherry on top here because Coinbase not only is it on the S&P 500, it's publicly listed. Toshi, it's named after the co-founder of Coinbase's pet cat, which is named Toshi, and I'm talking about Brian Armstrong. His pet cat supposedly named Toshi, so I do like this as well. Also, the name is very similar to Satoshi Nakamoto. I just kind of like the whole vibe overall when it comes to something like Toshi. However, sometimes people like to say, oh, the use case isn't necessarily the best. Well, how can it? I mean, a meme coin isn't necessarily based off that, right? But it's not to say that Toshi doesn't have some use cases though, because arguably I think it does have some cool aspects to it as well. Like for instance, we see something like Toshi Mart, right? Which is basically a meme coin launchpad. We also take a look at Toshi Tools, which will quite essentially help guide someone towards their journey to be building on the base network. So really, again, for what it is, it's actually pretty impressive that they even think about stuff like that again, right? Like Toshi Tools, Toshi Mart. They didn't necessarily have to do that, but I think it's pretty cool nonetheless. And naturally, because the base network does not have its own native token, instead I just believe in projects on there, which is why I'm still excited when it comes to Toshi, but only time will tell whenever the altcoin season ever even decides to truly happen, maybe arguably during this cycle. I just want to stay patient by just holding and dollar cost averaging, and that's about it. Also, when I think about the base network, I don't think about 10 different meme coins, right? I pretty much only think about 2. And this is just like from what I have experienced, right? Like personally, when I think about the base network, I think about either Brett or Toshi. Now, Brett arguably is way more popular right now, and I understand that, but then at the same time, it's just like pretty much Brett or Toshi. And also, if I want to take things one step further, when I just think about the base network in general, when I think about the projects, I think about pretty much only 3. And 2 out of the 3 are meme coins. Now, let me explain what I mean by this, right? Because again, when I think about the base network, I think about Brett, I think about Toshi, and I think about Aerodrome. Now, Aerodrome is a decentralized exchange, so it's a little bit different than Toshi and Brett because, of course, it's not a meme coin, but then, or should I say, Aerodrome's native token called Aero is a meme coin, but again, besides all that, it's kind of interesting for me to see how Coinbase is layer 2. Even despite Coinbase being pretty popular, again, 2 out of the top 3 projects in its layer 2, arguably I would say are meme coins. So I still like Toshi's positioning here. However, I'm not telling him to do anything. But at the idea of 2 cents, when it comes to Toshi, which is around the 24x from here, market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply around 8.5 billion, I mean, that's around like 10% of Dogecoin's all-time high market cap back in 2021. And that was like a long time ago. I just don't see why this seems that ridiculous to me, but only time will tell. Now, even if let's say we do see a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle, but whether or not it happens next month or in November or in December or like, let's say January, February, or March of next year in 2026, whenever that timeline is, it's going to be beyond my control. But at least I want to stay patient with the projects that I do find interesting and cool. And I like the narrative of the base network, which is why I'm staying patient with Toshi and why I'm still excited because I don't think that the base network has really kind of showcased itself fully yet, in a sense where people really think about it as this very established layer 2. I think a lot of people still think about some other layer 2s out there, so this is why I still like base and maybe what it could do moving forward. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.